Atha Dashamo Adhyaya Skanda 10, Chapter 10, Liberation of Nalakubara and Manigriva. The Raja said, O Master, what was the nature of this heinous offense that these two committed so as to provoke even a very holy devotee like Narada to pronounce a curse on them out of anger? What is characteristic of tamas? Sri Sukha said, these were two sons of Kubera, the Lord of Wealth, who joined as the attendants of Rudra. Haughty by nature, they were moving about, intoxicated with drink, in the beautiful outer garden of Kailasha, on the banks of the Ganga, and in woodlands full of flowers. They drunk and with eyes rolling in intoxication. They were holidaying with a group of women who were singing along with them. Getting into the Ganga waters, full of lotus blossom, they engaged themselves in water sports in the company of women, like bull elephants with the cows. O scion of the Kurus, Narada, the devotee who happened to pass that way, by chance, saw them and recognized that they were in an intoxicated state. On seeing Narada, the naked woman put on their dress out of shame, as also in fear of being cursed by the Rishi. But the two Guhayakas continued to be naked. Narada was struck with pity at the sight of those sons of Kubera, who had lost their senses on account of liquor and pride of wealth. So Narada said as follows in the form of a curse, but really as a blessing to them. Narada said, for a person indulging in worldly enjoyments, wealth is the one factor that does the greatest harm. Pride of birth and other traits born by Raja Guna do not make him to so perverse. For in the train of wealth come such vices as gambling, drink, and sexual perversities. Such people, slaves of the senses, forget that this body is perishable, subject as it is to old age and death, and kill mercilessly a large number of animals for feeding themselves and sustaining this perishable body. This body of man, which is indicated sometimes by the suffix deva, or God, in the end becomes fit to be indicated only by such expressions as word, dirt, or ashes. Do those persecutors of fellow beings know that what awaits them is nothing but terrible hell? Whose property is this body? Of one who feeds it, or of the father or the mother from whom it originates? Does it belong to the father or mother, or to the one who purchases it for the service of or slavery, or to the fire, or to dogs? Is he a wise man who identifies himself with this worthless thing called body, which comes from and dissolves into primordial substances, and who persecutes other beings for the upkeep of it? Poverty is the panacea for evil man's blindness, arising from pride and wealth. For a poor man can sympathize with other poor people as fellow sufferers. A man who has been lacerated by a thorn does not like a similar fate to befall others. By noticing the similarity of sufferings in others, he is likely to be moved by fellow pain. Not so a man who has never had a thought and takes flesh. The sufferings that come by chance to a poor man who is devoid of eyesight and of the pride resulting from it is like supreme austerity performed by him. A man whose body and senses have been weakened by hunger and who is always feeling the need for more food will naturally turn away from cruel and oppressive actions. Holy men with equanimity of outlook go to themselves to the houses of poor men without any invitation. By association with holy men, they overcome excessive greed. Their mind attains to purity soon. To a sadhu, whose mind is in the state of equanimity and who has taken shelter at the feet of the Lord, of what use is a proud rich man who is full of evil spirit, who associates with evil men and things, and therefore, on all accounts, deserves to be shunned. Because of ignorance born pride, these Guhayakas have become infatuated with wealth, wine, and women. I shall now correct these men of uncontrolled senses. Though these are the sons of Kubera, one of the protecting deities of the world, the darkness of ignorance has made them perverse and proud. They are intoxicated to the point of forgetting that they are staying stark naked. To lift them out from this state of mind and to prevent a relapse into it afterwards, I shall convert them into trees. By my blessing, they shall have memory of their previous state, even when they are reduced to trees. At the end of 100 divine years, they will be blessed with the association of the Lord Vasudeva. They will then be redeemed from this curse and again become celestials with great devotion for the Lord. Sri Sukha Singh, pronouncing such a curse, the devout Sri went away to Narana's Rama, while the two Guhayakas, Nalakubara and Manigriva, became two Arjuna trees. In order to fulfill the words of Devashri, Sri Krishna now moved towards these trees, dragging the mortar to which he had been tied. He thought, the Devashri is a very dear friend of mine. These two are the sons of Kubera, a devotee. I shall therefore prefer what Devashri pronounced. Thinking in this way, the Lord passed between Arjuna trees which had grown together close by. As soon as he entered through the space, the mortar got stuck crosswise between the trees. As the boy Krishna pulled the mortar touched to him with all force through the injured space between the trees. The taproots were broken, shaken violently all over, including branches, twigs, and leaves, by the mighty tool of the Lord. He fell down with a thunderous sound, as if it was a fire lodged within. Two celestial beings, illumining the quarters by their splendor, emerged from the trees, and approaching Krishna and bowing down in all humility and keeping their palms joined in salutation, said as follows: O Krishna, O Supreme Yogi, thou art the transcendent, supreme being and the first cause. Thou art not only the instrumental cause of the universe, but its material cause too. As the universe, in its subtle and gross conditions substitute dipole, the nervous of Brahman experience itself.
Thou, the one without the second, does constitute the body. Prana, Prana, and Indriyas are all things. Thou art Bhagavan Vishnu, who is all pervasive, who is time, who is the eternal one, and who is the ruler of all. Thou art the subtle Prakriti, constituted of the three gunas, its effects like Mahatattva, the all-pervading Purusha, and the universal witness of all movements of Prakriti. Thou cannot be apprehended by any other modifications of Prakriti, like buddhi, ahamkara, mind, senses, etc., because thou art the ultimate source of them all. The seen, the object cannot see the seer, the subject. Even the jiva cannot be the seer in regard to thee, because thou pre-existed the jiva. And how can the ignorant found jiva, which is covered by mind, body, etc., and possesses a form, know thee? Salutations to thee, Vasudeva, who is the possessed of all divine glories, who is the creator, who is Brahman, and whose glory is hidden by the Guna, having their origin in him. Just as the glory of the sun is hidden by the cloud originating from him, the incarnations of thee, resplendent untrembled by an extraordinary body, are distinguished from the ordinary embodied being by the manifestation of extraordinary powers, which are unmatched and incomparable, and therefore incompatible with the state of embodiment. Thou art that supreme being, the Lord of all blessings, manifested for the preservation and prosperity of the world by an aspect of thyself. Salutations to thee, the supremely good. Salutations to thee, the supremely auspicious. Salutations to Vasudeva, the peaceful, the Lord of the Yadi. O Lord, let us be servants of thy devotee, Narada. It was by the blessing of that sage that we got the opportunity of seeing thee. May our words be devoted to the narration of thy excellences. May our ears be always hearing accounts of thy deeds at thy feet. May our hands be engaged in thy work. May our minds ever rest in constant remembrance of thy feet. May our heads always remain bowed in reverence before thy habitation, the whole universe. And may our eyes be engaged in seeing thy devotees who are really thy embodiments. Jesuka said, on being came in this manner by the Gokayas, the Bhagwan, the Lord of Gokula, so tied to the mortal, spoke to the Gokayas with a smile. Shri Bhagwan said, I've already known how you, who had brought all your good sense owing to the infatuation of wealth, were given a curse, which was in effect only a blessing, by the sage Narada, depriving you of your prosperity and affluence, and leading you to your present state of spiritual elevation. Even the very sight of holy men, whose minds are always at peace, and who have made wholehearted self-surrender to me, will remove the bondage of men. As the sight of the sun removes darkness, enables the eyes to see. Oh, Nara Kubara, both of you may now go home and live a life of devotion and self-surrender to me. As desired by you, love of me, which puts an end to immense samsara, is already generated in you. Sri Sukha said, directed so by the Lord, they circumambulated the Lord several times and took leave of him, who was still standing tied to the water, and went home in the northern direction. Atta Kanda Shudyaya. Sri Sukha said, O noble king, hearing the terrific sound of the fallen tree, Nanda and other Gopas rushed it, fearing it was a thunderbolt. They saw that pair of Arjuna's tree fallen on the ground. Though the trees were lying before them, they got puzzled and they could not understand why they fell. Even the child dragging the water in which he was carried, they began to see the mountain cloud, expressing great fear. Look, Rakshasa has done this. The incident spoke very great anger. Some boys now informed them the trees had been felled by this boy, standing between them, dragging the water crosswise. Besides, we also saw two superhuman beings. Most of the grown-ups rejected the version of the boys, and it was impossible to conceive how such a small boy would fell those big trees. But some, however, were not so sure, considering the series of marvels that had taken place recently. Seeing his son tied to the water and dragging it, Nanda smiled and released him. Oh, what an exquisite irony! Nanda releasing him who releases all. Prompting of the Gopi, the Bhagavan, the possessor of all divine majesty, danced like an ordinary boy and assuming the role of a simple-minded boy. He sang loudly at their wish, as if he were a push-button doll under their control. The gopis would ask him something. Krishna, bring that stool. Bring that measuring vessel. Bring those sandals. Ready to please all devotees, he would go and take them. But if they were too heavy for him, he would keep them again on the ground and throw up his hands to the amusement of all. Revealing thus to be the wise ones the truth that he subordinates himself to his devotee. The Lord delighted the inhabitants of Raja by his childish plays and behavior. When the fruit seller cried in the street, come buy fruits, the boy Krishna, the bestower to all of the fruit of their actions, would rush out with hands full of craving, as if anxious to purchase fruit quickly. The fruit seller would fill with fruits those little hands from which all grains had already fallen out, but in return she would find her fruit basket full of precious grains. One day, after the flesh of the Arjuna trees, Krishna, along with Rama and other boys, were absorbed in play on the banks of the Kaveri. When Mother Rohini went there and told him home, finding that owing to the engrossment in play, the children were not happy. However much she called, Rohini went back and sent Yashoda to fond mother. So Yashoda, with a heart full of wrath, went to call the boy who had been playing too late into the day and said, Oh Krishna darling, come and have a feed. Enough of playing. You must be hungry and weary. Oh Rama dear, good boy, you too come with your brother. You took your breakfast so early in the morning. It is now getting very late for your next meal. Nanda, the chief of Gokula, is awaiting your arrival to take food. So come soon and make us all happy. And you boys, you too go home. Oh my boy, you are bathed in dust. Take a bath and make yourself tea. Today is your birthday. After bathing, you have got to give gifts to cows to Brahman. Look at those companions of yours. They have been bathed and fed and bedecked by their mothers. You too can bath, take food, and then play as you like. O king, bound by ties of affection for the transcendent being, whom she looked upon as a child, Yashoda took her son Krishna by the hand, and along with Rama, brought him home, after which she bathed, decorated, and fed him. Nanda and the other elders among the Gopas now felt alarmed by all these extraordinary happenings in the settlement situated in Brindavana. They interpreted these as portending further calamities in store. So they all met in confidence to think about the welfare of the coward city. They, Upananda, a Gopa, old both in age and in wisdom, and always solicitous about the welfare of Rama and Krishna, one who had a full comprehension of time, place, and the heart of a situation, counseled as follows. We who are interested in the welfare of this Gokula should make haste to move away from this place. Every day we are meeting with danger signals indicating perils for the colony. By the grace of God, this child escaped from the hands of the wicked demonists indulging in infanticide, and also from the danger of being crushed by the big car. This child was lifted into the sky, the sphere of bird, by that Asura, who came as a whirlwind and dropped him on a rock. Divine providence alone saved the darling on the altar. But neither this boy nor any other died crushed by these giant trees is yet another instance of the Lord's protective hand. Before the terrible calamity, which all those portents indicate happening, let us leave this place with our children and all our dependents. There's a famous woodland called Vrindavana. It has virgin pastures for cows, which will be very congenial for gopas, gopis, and the cattle, and with which abounds in the sacred hills, grassland, trees, creepers, and other vegetation. We shall migrate to that place even now. If you are agreeable to this proposal, then get your carts ready to start, and let the cattle, which we form our wealth, go in advance. All the gopas unanimously agreed to the idea, so all the carts were brought ready and all their possessions put into them. The gopas started on the track, the old men, women, children, and their possessions put in their carts. The cows marching ahead, and themselves and their priests following vigilantly, with bowls ready in hand. They blew their horns loudly, and the sound of trumpets and other instruments spread everywhere. Dressed in new clothes, and with fresh saffron powder rubbed on their breasts, and adorned with shining necklaces, the gopis sat in their carts joyously, singing sweet songs dealing with the sportive doings of Krishna. Yashoda and Rohini, with Krishna and Rama by their side, occupied one cart, and heard with great delight the songs about their children's deeds sung by the gopis. Entering into Vrindavana, which was pleasant to stay in all seasons, they first fixed a site for their settlement, arranging their cart in a semicircular form. Rama and Krishna were in great glee to see the beautiful scenery of Vrindavana, its Govardhan mountain, and the sand dunes on the Yamuna banks. By their boyish pranks and sweet speech, Rama and Krishna delighted all in the Gokula. Gradually, as they grew up, they began to tend small cows. In the company of other boys, they took the cows to tend in places not far from the Praja, carrying with them numerous playthings to engage themselves in sport. Sometimes they played on the flute, sometimes they flung stones with their plentiful slingshots. Sometimes they kicked balls, sounding the mini bell on their ankles. Sometimes they put on the mask of bulls and engaged themselves in mock fights, bellowing like bulls. Sometimes they mimicked the sound of certain types of animals. Thus they played about like ordinary bulls. One day, while Rama and Krishna were tending cows with the other boys, an Asura came there with the idea of killing them.
Detecting him among the calves in the disguise of a cow, Sri Hari pointed out to Rama and then went near at him innocently. He caught hold of his hind legs and tail together, and whirling him round and round, hurled him dead to the top of the kapata tree. His huge carcass fell down from the tree, bringing large number of kapita fruits with it. The boys, astounded to see his huge dead body, loudly acclaimed the feet of Krishna, while the devas rained flowers and joy. Rama and Krishna, who were really the guardians of the world, now went about as the guardians of small cows, starting from home in the early morning with food packets in their kit. They moved about feeding the cows in pasture ground. One day, they went to a lake to water the cows. After doing so, they themselves quenched their thirst from that water. The boys are now terribly frightened to see nearby a huge creature like one of those fabled mountains whose wings were cut off by Indra. That creature was a powerful asura, Baka, come in the shape of a crane with sharp beak. The monster now rushed towards Krishna and swallowed him. Rama and the other boys became completely paralyzed to see Krishna being swallowed by the monstrous crane. Their condition was like that of the senses when the prana has escaped, more dead than alive. But the crane immediately vomited the cowhead boy, the master even of Brahma, as that creature felt him hot and burning like a ball of fire. Finding the child absolutely unhurt, the monster now ran at him to attack and kill him with his beaks. As the boys looked on, and the celestial watched with excitement, Krishna killed the attacking monster crane and ally of Kamsa by tearing it asunder by its two beaks. For him, it was as easy as splitting a blade of grass. Thereupon, the celestial began to rain jasmine flowers collected from the heavenly garden of Nandana, and also sang hymns in his praise to the accompaniment of musical instruments like conch and drum. The Gopa boys watched all this in utmost wonder. Thus, as all the senses cling to the prana on its restoration, so did all the Gopa boys embrace Krishna on his getting back to their midst. Then they returned home, herding all the calves, and reported the events of the days to their elders. The Gopas and Gopis were wonder-struck on hearing it, with their hearts melting in the intensity of the affection and eyes unsatisfied by his sight. They gazed on him intently, considering him as one restored to the light from the jaws of death. They began to say, Alas, this boy has met death several times. But lo, death in the air overtook only those who came to destroy him. Perhaps these killers had done much evil in the past, and it is the cumulative effect that has destroyed them. Though all these attacks are terrible in appearance, though all these attacks are terrific in appearance, they have not been able to do any harm to the boy. Though they came to kill him, they perished as moths in fire. Indeed, the words of the knowers of Brahman never prove false. All that Bhagwan Karka said the other day has come true. Nanda and the other gopis, by counting these exploits of Rama and Krishna, with great feeling, forgot completely the sufferings of worldly life, engaged themselves in various childish play like hide and seek, making embarkments, leaping like monkeys, etc. The two divine children spent their early boyhood in Braja. Atha, chapter 12, the salvation of Aga. Sri Sukha said, one day Krishna decided that he would have his lunch in the woodland and not at home. So getting up very early in the morning, he woke up all his companions by loudly blowing his cowhead horn. In their company, he started to the woods where the calves he herded in front. With him started merrily a very large number of Gopa boys with a kutta consisting of slings, sticks, horns, and turrets and pots of curd rice, and they marched ahead. the calves numbering over 1,000. Mixing the calves with a very large number of Krishna's calves, they engage themselves in various boyish games as the calves graze. Though the mothers decorated them with ornaments of kacha, red beads, they precious stones, gold, etc. They regale themselves with additional decorations of fruits, tender leaves, bunches of flower buds, peacock feathers, and mineral powders. Some of them would play thin slings and equipment of others, and when found out, throw away to some others at a distance, who in turn would throw them still further. When the owners are teased, they laugh and restore them to their owners. If Krishna happened to go some distance, drawn by the beauty of the forest scenery, the boys would run in competition to near him and touch him. Some of them sounded their flutes, some blew their horns, some buzzed with honey beetle, and some cooed with the singing bird, the kokilas. Thus did they engage themselves in play. Some ran, pursuing the shadows of flying birds. Some walked with swans, imitating their elegant tread. Some made me the pose of praise. Some danced with peacocks. Thus did they engage themselves in play. Some of them pulled monkeys by the tail. Some climbed trees after them. Some imitated the grimaces and contortions. Some jumped from one branch of a tree to another. Thus did they engage themselves in play. Some jumped into the stream and chased the frog right to the other bank. Some conversed mockingly at their own images in the water. Some scolded the echoes of their own voices from the caverns. Thus did they engage themselves in play. Those boys are exceedingly mad with us play with him, who appeared as Brahmic bliss to knowing ones, as the deity to those moved by devotion, and as a mere human child to those in the grip of Maya. Ah, how, how can one describe the good fortune of the inhabitants of Braja? Before this, before his flecked eyes stood he, the dust of whose skin the yogis found to attain, even through austerities in life after life, with their minds indrawn and concentrated on him. At this time, an asura named Agha, unable to bear the sight of the delightful sports of these children, made his appearance there with a view to destroy them. This asura was a terror even to the devas, who, though they had drunk the elixir, sorry, those though they had drunk the elixir of immortality, still felt it necessary to safeguard their lives against him. This Agatsura, an emissary of Kamsa, was the brother of Putana and Baka, who had met with the death at Krishna's hands. Seeing Krishna and the boys, he thought within himself, this boy is the killer of my sister and brother. I shall kill him along with Bala to give satisfaction to my two dear ones. If these boys are given by me as funeral offerings to my dead brother and sister, then all the inhabitants of Raja are as good as dead. For they are like their prana to people. If they perish, the whole community perishes in the next generation. So, if the prana of the community, the children appear, there is nothing to fear from them afterward, as one need not concern oneself with the body, which prana has left. Concentrating thus, that evil-minded demon assumed the form of a large pipe, and with its mountain-like body, the Georgian long, its mouth wide open like a huge plate, laying wait on the way to devour the children. His lower lip touched the earth, and the upper one the clouds in the sky. The corners of his mouth were like caverns, while his molars resembled mountain peaks. In the cavity of his mouth, where pitch darkness reigned, his tongue lay like a broad veil. His breath came out like a piercing wind, and his eyes shone like the flames of a forest fire. The boys sing Arka Sura of the above description mistook the sight to be another wonderful feature of the scenery of Vrindavan. They admired and praised its striking resemblance to a python. They said, "Look here, friends, what is it that we see before us? Is it a living creature or not? Can you say whether it's a real python lying there to swallow us, or a mere creature of the mountainside? See, the clouds slightly reddened by the sun's ray look like his upper part of the jaw, and the ground below, which reflects a little of their redness, look like the lower jaw. The tails on the left and right of the mountain creatures look like the corners of a python's lips. The series of lofty peaks look like its molars. The broad and long path is very much like a tongue. The darkness in the gorge between the two peaks resembles the darkness within the mouth of the giant creature. The hot wind caused by the forest fire is like its breath, and the smell of burnt flesh coming from the fire is the foul smell emitted by the rotten flesh in the python's stomach. If we get into this mouth, will the creature swallow us? If it does so, he will also follow the footsteps of Baka at the hands of Krishna. Saying so, they looked at the beautiful face of the destroyer Baka and laughed, clapping their hands.
Hearing a conversation between these ignorant boys, oblivious of the real state of affairs, the Lord, who is present in the hearts of all, understood that it was a real serpent, and the boys had ignorantly taken or fancy. Anxious to save them, he wanted to stop them from proceeding further. Before he could do so, however, boys and the calves entered into the monster's mouth. But instead of swallowing them immediately, the python kept his mouth open for the destroyer of Baka to enter, so that he could avenge the death of the two of his most dear ones. Krishna, the protector of the whole universe, was overcome with pity and wonder at the tragic fate of the boys and calves, who had none except he as protector, but had slipped out of his hands even into the flaming fire of death. He thought within himself how he could save the good boy and destroy the wicked monster at one stroke. Having arrived at the plan, the all-seeing Hari entered into the python's mouth. The Devas standing behind the clouds cried out, expressing their apprehension, while monstrous beings and the friends and allies of Kamsa felt jubilant. Hearing the wailings of the Devas, Krishna, the deathless one, began to grow inside within the throat of that one thing who wanted to pulverize all of them. Krishna, the boys, and the calves, one stroke. The gigantic monster, having his head passage thus obstructed by the enlarging body of the Lord, began to roll hither and thither, with his eyes protruding. As the breath could not come out through any passage, he burst his head and came out. When the monster's life force had entirely left his body, Krishna, the Supreme Self, revived all the calves and friends by his look and came out with them all through the mouth of the monster. Now they came out from the body of the huge serpent, a radiance that illumined all the courtroom. It lingered in the sky for a moment for Sri Krishna to come out of the serpent's body and then merged into him as all the Devas watched. Jubilant at the event, the Devas honored their savior by a rain of flowers, Apsaras by dancing, Gandharvas by music, instrumental musicians by orchestra, Brahmanas by praises and hymns, and his attendants by exclamations of Jaya. Now, hearing in Satyaloka the above-mentioned auspicious sounds and festive exclamations of hymns, instrumental music, songs, and shouts of joy, soon came to see the expression of the Lord's divine majesty, and was wonder-struck to see what had happened. The dried skin of the python demon became for a long time a cave for purposes of play for the boys of Braja. This act of Sri Hari, resulting in the release from death of themselves as well as the liberation of Aghasura from samsara, was reported by the boys to the elders in Gokula only 1 year after, that is, in Krishna's 6th year. All were astounded to hear it. It is not to be wondered at or considered improbable that Aghasura got rid of all his sins and attained identity with the Supreme, which is never to be had by sinners like him or rebels, all because of the purifying touch of the Lord, the Creator and Supreme Master of the world, who had appeared as a human child in Braja. Even those who once had a mental picture of him within themselves in meditation do attain to the divine state. Why not then this Aghasura, into whom the very Lord, the one without any stain of Maya, and ever immersed in the bliss of the Spirit, entered in truth and in reality, without any imaginary element as in meditation. The Sutra said, Parikshit, who was really a gift of Krishna to the line of the Pandava, hearing all these accounts of him, who was his protector, questioned Sukha again on the same theme with his mind fully controlled. The Raja said, O learned sir, how can something that had been done in the distant past become a current incident? How can an event that had been done in the distant past become current incident? How can an event that took place in the 4th year of Krishna be reported by the boys, his companions, only 1 year after, that is in Krishna's 6th year? O great yogi and teacher, this seems to me to be so puzzling. Tell me all about it. It must surely be due to the Lord's Maya, his mysterious spiritual potency, and to nothing else. Though I am only an ordinary Kshatriya, I am the most fortunate person in this world. I am able to hear again and again from no less a person than his holy self, sanctifying accounts of Krishna's deeds. The Sutra said, on being questioned in this way, Shuka, the son of Vyasa, thought of the Supreme Being, whereupon all his sense powers and mind were absorbed in him, in God, or the best among devotees. With great effort, he then brought his mind to the consciousness of the external world and began to speak. Atha Trayodashoshtyaya, Skanda 10, chapter 13. Sri Shuka says, you have put the right question. O thou the most fortunate and the best among the Bhagavatas. The story of the Lord's deeds is fresh, in spite of hearing them time after time. For those wise men who consider that the real purpose of the powers of see, hearing, and thought consists in dedicating them to Him, this interest in hearing about the deeds of the Lord becomes natural and instinctive. These accounts have an ever-renewing novelty about them, just as stories about women have for vulgar people. Listen with faith and attention with you. I'm going to give you something in spite of it being a great secret. Your beloved disciple, teachers reveal even the most esoteric verity. After having reduced the boys and the calves from death in the mouth of Agasura, the Lord brought them to the bank of the river and said, ah, friends, how charming are these riverbanks! These sandy regions, besides being beautiful for our gain, are naturally endowed with pure and soft sand. The whole river surface is a blossom of flowers, whose fragrance is attracting the budding honeybees and chirping birds, and the sounds mixed with the murmuring music of the river are reverberating from the foliage of thick vegetation around them. It is now late in the noon, and we are very hungry. Therefore, sit here and take lunch. Let the calves drink water and graze about here. Thereupon the boys made the calves drink the milk and tied them up in the region where there was plenty of grass. Then they took out their food and plates from their slings and sat delightedly with the Lord to lunch. Sitting around Krishna in several rows, constantly gazing at his face with eyes wide open, they looked like petals of a lotus arranged around the filling cup. The 18 plates improvised from flower petals, candle leaves, fruits, tree barks, and stones, as well as in the ready-made one taken from the sea. Commenting on the flavor and delicacy of their respective dishes, and laughing and making one another laugh by jokes, they dined along with the Lord. Imagine the sight of Him, to whom all the offerings of yajnas are paid, sitting in boiling heat to take his food amidst his companions, with the flutes tucked between his waistcloth and the abdomen, with blowhorn and staff in the left armpit, the left hand respectively, with the balls of curd rice in his right palm, and various condiments between the fingers, and sat in the midst of his friends, cracking jokes and making them laugh, as the celestials looked on, steeped in wonder. As the cow-keeping boys were passing games in their dinner, oblivious of everything but Krishna, calves eat up on grass, moved to distant parts of the woodland. Later, missing the calves, the boys were filled with apprehension. But Krishna, who is the remover of the fears of all the world, told them, friends, continue your meal. I shall go and fetch all the calves. So saying, Krishna, with the ball of rice still in his hand, went about searching for the calf, mountain tops, caves, and groves of creepers. Brahma, the lotus ball, who had been thoroughly astonished to see the divine play of the liberation of Akasura, was desirous of seeing more of the unique power and greatness of the divine child incognito. He therefore spirited away and hid all the charms that Krishna was in search of. By the time Krishna returned to his companions, unsuccessful in his attempt to find out the car, he discovered that the boys too had disappeared. Not finding the cow that was also on his return to the riverbank, Krishna moved about in the woods everywhere, seeking both. Searching everywhere, he could see neither the boys nor the cow. Presently it dawned on him, who is all-knowing, that the whole affair was a machination of Brahma. Krishna, in order to give joy to all the parties concerned, the mothers of the cow that boy, the cows, and also Brahma, assumed the forms of both the boys and the cows. To whom? To him, who is the maker and the master of all, this is but a trifle. Whatever number of small boys and cows there were, whatever organs and limbs they were endowed with, whatever equipment they had, like staff, cow horns, flutes, vessels, and slings, whatever ornaments and clothes they were wearing, whatever playthings they possessed, whatever distinguishing features they had, like traits of character, virtue, name, form, age, and the like, all these, that immortal one became as a literal illustration of the great truth that all of this is Vishnu, himself Krishna, himself the cow, himself the coward boys directing the car, himself electing various plays, and himself the toys and the sports material. Krishna, the soul of all beings, entered the cowherd settlement. O king, separating each one's cows, driving them into the respective cowsheds. Krishna, who had become each and every one of the boys and the cows, entered their respective houses in the very likeness of each boy. Their mother, hearing the sound of flutes, had got up hurriedly to receive them, and on arrival they embraced with both arms and suckled ecstatically the Bharat company in the shape of their boys. The daily routine finished, the Lord in the guise of so many boys, but in the evening club, raised, knighted with cosmetics, decked in silks and with jewels, sanctified with marks, fed sumptuously and fondled by the respective mothers of the boys. And he in turn regaled them all separately by his charming gesture. After a couple of hours, retired to bed. The cows returning from pasture rushed into the cowshed and, knowing to summon the respective cows, began to lick the young ones again and again, and fed them with the milk that was overflowing from their udders. The cows and the mothers continued to have towards the multiform Krishna the same maternal attitude that they used to have towards their erstwhile calm and son. The only difference was that the intensity of their affection was greater than before. Krishna, in the form of their young one, had the same affection towards their mothers and before. The only difference being that it was not prompted by Maya through the sense of possession. In the case of the Gopas, the keeper of their affection for their children remained evergreen and limitlessly growing, as it was based in Krishna, the infinite being. Thus Krishna spent 1 year in the houses of the Gopas as the children, and in the cowsheds as the cows, assuming the forms of both, tending himself as cow by himself, as the cowherd boys. Once, when only 5 or 6 days were left to complete 1 year of this divine Dharma, Krishna, along with Rama, went to the forest with the cows.
The cows, which were gazing on the top of the Govardhana mountain, saw the calves at a long distance moving about near Braja. Seeing them, they forgot themselves out of love for the cows and, overcoming the impediments posed by their tending cowherds and natural obstacles, ran towards them with the gait and speed of horses, their heads turned to the hump, tails raised and udders shedding milk. So fast did they gallop that it looked as if they had only two legs, for as they galloped, the two forelegs moved towards, and so did the two hind legs. Hurtling down to the valley, these cows, though they had other calves, began to lick these calves with such excitement that it made one think that they were going to eat them up, and began to feed them with milk overflowing from their udders. The cowherds tending them were discomfited and irritated at not being able to control these cows. With great difficulty, they came hurrying through intricate hill tracks to the valley where they met the calves and their own sons. Seeing their sons, the irritated mood of these Gopals took to wings, and great was their joy when, overcome with affection for the boys, they took them up in their arms and embraced them and smacked the crown of their heads. Thus, having attained to the summit of satisfaction by embracing the boys, the elderly Gopas, feeling like youths, departed with their eyes overflowing with tears. Surprised at the growth of affection in the women of Braja as towards infants, for these grown-up boys who had been weaned long ago, Rama began to think about the cause of this. What a wonder! The kind of love which the inhabitants of Raja used to have towards Krishna, the soul of all, they were now found to have towards all children in Raja. What is the source of this magical spell? Is it human or celestial or asuric in origin? It must certainly be that of my master Krishna, or else it could not have affected me. Cogitating in this manner, Balarama was able with his eyes of knowledge to recognize all of them as expressions of Krishna, the Satchit Ananda. He said, these boys are not parts of devas, nor these cows of rishis, as was supposed before. Thou art alone shining, as all these different entities. The Vedas too declare that thou art the manifold. So thou alone shouldest clarify this mystery. Tackled thus, the Lord explained the whole affair to him in brief. 1 year after, which according to his Brahma's calculation of time is only one Truti, Brahma came back to the scene only to see the ever full Krishna with his retinue of boys and calves still playing there as he was doing 1 year ago. Brahma then thought within himself, all the boys and calves of Raja are even now sleeping on my magical beds. They have not got up from them. Where from, then, have come all these calves and boys who continue to be with Krishna, gazing and playing here for the past 1 year? Thinking deeply over the problem of these two sets of boys and calves, Brahma was not able to arrive to any conclusion as to which was the genuine and which the pseudo set. Thus, the attempt of Brahma to confuse Vishnu, who is himself undeluded by any false knowledge, but who infatuates the whole world by his Maya, ended in his own confusion and discomfiture. As the darkness caused by you in the naturally dark night, and as the light shed by glowworms in the broad daylight, the magical powers displayed against him, who is the source of the world magic, can only be ineffective. It only destroys the power of a person who does so. As Brahma was looking on in this confused state of mind, he found all the calves as well as the cowherd boys with their equipment of staff, horns, etc., suddenly turning into forms of blue complexion, resembling heavy rain clouds, and dressed in yellow silk cloth. He found them all forearmed, holding in those armed horns discus, mace, and lotus bearing diadem, earrings, necklace, and floral wreaths, and having on their bodies Srivatsa, armlets, bracelet, studded with gems, girdle, anklets, and ring. They were having on them holy tulasi wreaths, extending from head to foot, freshly offered by great devotees. Their faces were remarkable by the sidelong glances of their eyes, having a red tinge, and by the smile resembling the moon, the former symbolic of Rajas, granting the desires in the hearts of devotees, and the latter symbolic of Sattva, which preserves their spiritual interests. All embodied beings, from himself down to the inanimate objects, were adoring them separately in different ways, with dance, song, and various ingredients of worship. They were surrounded by the eight yogic powers like Anima, by Maya, and other Shaktis, and by the 24 categories like Mahat Tattva. They were being adored in an embodied state by Kala, Swabhava, Samskara, Kama, and Karma, whose effulgence was engulfed by that of the Vishnu forms. They were seen as the embodiments of truth, consciousness, and bliss, and as inexhaustible repositories of countless auspicious qualities whose extent cannot be glimpsed even through the Upanishads. Brahma thus saw them all simultaneously as Parabrahma, by whose light all this creation is manifested. Astounded by these experiences, Brahma turned his gaze away. All his 11 senses became completely stilled in the presence of the divine majesty he witnessed, and he stood silent like a statue besides the main deity of Raja. Brahma was utterly confused with what he saw and thought the Supreme Being is beyond logical thought. He is infinite in majesty, self-effulgent and blissful, beyond Prakriti and its effects, and capable only of being denoted negatively by the Vedas. How then am I seeing that being as this multiplicity of forms? Confused in this way, he could not see even who the original Krishna was. At that moment, Krishna, the original being, cast off the spell of Maya. Then Brahma came back to his normal consciousness, like a dead man revived. Rubbing his eyes, he looked out and saw the whole universe and himself distinct from it. He looked around immediately and saw before him the Vrindavana with its magnificent vegetation and graced by the presence of Sri Krishna therein. Because of his presence, men and animals that are naturally antagonistic to one another lived there peacefully, and evil passions like greed and anger fled from the hearts of men. There he saw the non dual Brahman, immeasurable consciousness, in the assumed form of a cowherd boy, going about in search of his calves and companions with a ball of rice and condiments in his hand. Thereupon Brahma got down from his vehicle in haste and fell down in prostration before Krishna, stretching his body like a staff of gold at his feet, doing obeisance by touching his feet with his four diadem heads. He washed those feet with tears of joy that were wailing from his eyes. Remembering again and again the divine majesties of Krishna that he witnessed earlier, he got up and prostrated again and again at his feet. Then he stood up, slowly composed himself, wiped his eyes moistened by tears, took a look at Krishna, and with head bent down and palms joined in humble salutation, began to recite a hymn in his praise, his voice and body trembling with high emotion.
इति श्रीमद् भागवते महापुराणे पारमाहंस्यां संहितायां द्वादशस्कन्धे पूर्वोर्धे त्रयोदशोऽध्यायः. This concludes the recital for today. We commence tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. South African time. Thank you very much for viewing. We bring the procedures to a close by surrendering all the fruits of the activities to the Paramatma. Om Paramatmane Namah. Iti. Tat Sat. Thank you.